is the First Class Gang, a self-named group of elite stamp collectors. Hi everyone, hope you're really well, hope you've had a lovely bank holiday. Where I am, the weather has been really lovely, especially today, which is Monday. For you it's Tuesday, sorry for confusion. So hopefully that's really helped with the long weekend. It has for me. And I so much so that I considered doing a session all about the summer because I was enjoying the weather so much. I had a rethink, and actually what we're going to do today is a writing session that leads us towards writing a pitch for a new play or film or story. I'm going to mainly talk about it as though it was a play, but it can be a film, it can be a book, a story, anything really. It's all the same, but I'm probably in my mind always going to think about that as a play, coming from sort of a performance and theatre background. But it can be a story, it can be a film, whatever you want. Now you don't have to write the film, book, story, play. You don't write that. You're just going to write the sales pitch as if you were pitching it to a board of people who were going to decide whether to make it or not. Okay, before we do all of that, we're going to do some warming up. Now usually I start the writing session with a writing warm-up. I'm not going to do that today. We're going to do a sort of a speaking one instead, because today is quite creative and about storytelling, so it'd be good for us to get those skills awaken in our minds first. So we don't need a pen and paper. Oh, what I should say is, if you're new to this, hello, I'm Gemma. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself. So this is going to be a writing session. We do lots of different ones on the performing arts. It can be, it might be more speaking, it might be a bit moving, but today we're mostly writing. So you're going to need a pen and some paper. So if you need those things, press pause on the video, grab them and come back. Okay, so put your pen and paper to one side for a second. You're going to have 30 seconds to speak on a subject. I'm going to time it for you so you don't have to worry about that. The idea here is that you try and keep talking for the whole 30 seconds and get those parts of your brain awake that react quickly and think up creative things. Don't worry, the first time you do it, it might be really tricky, and we'll do a few to hopefully get you in practice, and you'll just get better and better. So the first 30 seconds, just thinking about what I just was saying about this session, original idea was all about summer. Your first word is going to be summer, and you're going to have 30 seconds to talk about it. I'm going to time it. Start thinking now about what you could talk about. You can talk about anything. There's no rules here, as long as it's about summer, but anything at all that sparks your imagination. Okay, let's have a go at that. Just talk continuously out loud, wherever you are, about summer. Off you go. 30 seconds on the clock. You can talk about the weather, talk about things you've done in the past, things you plan to do, how it makes you feel. It's 10 seconds left. Okay, and stop. Fantastic. First one over and done with. Nice and easy. Just talking about summer. Trying to just get ourselves thinking quickly and thinking creatively, really. Okay, ready for another one? I'm going to reset the timer. Another 30 seconds on the clock. This time a little bit less easy than summer. We're going to talk about roads. Roads that you travel on in a car. However, if you want to, or walking, you want to start talking about a road you've gone down or a metaphorical road, it's up to you. Got 30 seconds, you talk about roads. Not the Greek island, I think it's a Greek island. R-O-A-D-S, roads. You're 10 seconds in already. Talk about busy roads, quiet roads, potholes in the roads. Don't get too angry. Okay, last couple of seconds. Fantastic, stop, brilliant, you're doing really well. Breezing through roads, excellent, well done. Last one then, this is just going to keep us waking up those parts of the brain that we don't use all the time, thinking quickly and creatively. Last one, a food that I adore. you might not feel the same. There's a lot of variety of this food and it can be in so many different meals, so you've got lots of things to talk about. 30 seconds on the clock, you're going to talk about cheese. I'm going to spend this 30 seconds dreaming about cheese. Cheese on crackers. Pizza. Mexican food. Christmas. Chutneys. A camembert. The idea with this, I've almost finished full. Okay, finish. That's enough. I almost filled that whole time just in my daydream about cheese. I was going to say the idea is there that we are speaking for the whole 30 seconds if possible, so I was taking breaks, dreaming, but the idea is that you would spend that whole 30 seconds continually talking, going in different directions if you need to, but on that same subject of cheese, roads or summer. If you felt like that, it's the first time you've ever done anything like that and it wasn't, it didn't happen as easily as you'd like to, just rewind the video a little bit and have another go at that, and see if you can get the more you do it, honestly, the better you'll become. Right, now we're gonna have 30 seconds again, but to tell a story. Now I'm going to tell you what the story is. If you don't know that story, just make it up. So again, it's just about a bit of improvisation, really quick thinking, just making things up and telling a story now instead of just talking continually about a subject. So for example, I might say tell the story of, trying to think of something, Mamma Mia. There we go, spotted it on my bookshelf. So 30 seconds would start and I say, okay, this is a story of a girl who lives on a Greek island with her mum. She's getting married, but she wants her dad to be there, but she doesn't know who her dad is. She's read her mum's diary, found out that there's 3 potential dads, so she's written to them all, and they all end up coming to the island for her wedding. She's trying to work out who is her dad. She has conversations with them, she talks to her mum, and she sort of realises it doesn't really matter because they all want to be her dad because they're all lovely people, but she does find out which one is actually her dad in the end, and she realises she doesn't need to get married actually, and there's loads of songs, loads of happiness, and her mum actually marries the dad, I think, at the end, so there is a marriage. Okay, I didn't time that, but that's the idea, okay, just continually talking, telling the story, okay. First one, hopefully, and again, if you don't know this story very well, sometimes we forget even the classics, just make it up. Just as long as you're talking continuously for those 30 seconds, as quickly as you can. Obviously not racing through it, but as I was, without too much delay, trying to just move from one sentence to the next. Okay, your story to tell is the 3 Little Pigs. Off you go, 30 seconds. Think about how it starts. We meet our characters. We meet the baddie. In the middle, the drama happens. So we have all of their 3 houses. And how does it end? A couple of seconds left. And pause. Brilliant. Don't worry if you didn't even get halfway through the story, that doesn't really matter. The idea is that you are continually talking, you're thinking about the story, how it starts, the middle, the drama, and how it ends. Obviously, get as far through that as you can in the 30 seconds and just continually talk. Doing really well. Here's another one for you. Hopefully you know this story. The Wizard of Oz. Off you go. Talk for as much of the 30 seconds as you can. Any bits you've forgotten, just make them up. Or breeze past them, get to the bit you know. Last 5 seconds now. And finish. Well done. Fantastic, excellent. Okay, so 2 stories that you might know quite a bit about. The final one we're going to do is actually a title that I have made up. Okay, so it's not a real story. So you're going to have to, for 30 seconds, make up this story. Imagine that you know it well. Okay, start off going, yeah, I know this story. Start us with the beginning, meet the characters, the problem. Middle, we have the drama, so it's the problem as well continued, and anything that happens around that problem, and then the resolution is at the end. What happens? Happy ending, sad ending, unknown ending. Okay, 30 seconds only, so you've only got 30 seconds to try and figure out what happens. Your title, I'm going to give you a couple of seconds before I start the timer actually. The title is The Jam Thief. The Jam Thief. Okay, you're going to have 30 seconds to tell us what that story is about, what happens in that story. Good luck, try and talk for as much of that 30 seconds as you can. Off you go. Ten seconds left. Okay, fantastic, and freeze wherever you're up to on the Jam Thief. Well done, fantastic, you've done really well. Lots of talking there at the beginning of the session just to get us warmed up. So thanks for taking part in those warm-up activities. Hopefully you'll feel a bit more ready now to pick up the pen and start doing a bit of writing. If you want to share, by the way, anything, you can write comments underneath the video. I always ask for people to let me know because I miss being with you guys so much, being in the same space and doing these sorts of activities together. So if you want to tell me a little synopsis, that's a little brief rundown of what happens in The Jam Thief, I would love to hear it. And I know it's hard to be the first person to do something like that, but be brave, be confident. I would love to hear from you, and it might encourage others to do it as well. Okay, so now we're going to pick up our pen and paper. There's going to be no time limit on this activity, but it is going to be one of those where I ask you to pause it, have a little think and write it down. So today's session is about storytelling really, and you're going to create a new story that you're going to pitch the idea for. So a couple of stories you're going to write down now. They can be as long or as short as you like. It's just to get us thinking about a story, I guess. So I'd like you to write about something personal to you, if that's okay. You're not going to need to share these with anybody, so write about whatever sort of event you would like. And when you write it, think about that storytelling element, that beginning, the middle, of the end. So I'm going to ask you to write about a time that you had to be something. So for example, if I said, write about a time where you had to be, I don't know, had to be, I'm trying not to pick one of the ones that I'm doing, had to be somewhere, had to be at an event. So you might start by sort of setting the scene. Had to go to a friend's christening for a little girl, but I didn't feel well. House full of colds, sneezing all night, hadn't slept very well, a bit shivery as well, but I really had to go. That'd be the beginning. The middle would be maybe you getting there, maybe it was a bit of a nightmare getting there, you missed the bus or you couldn't find anywhere to park and you'd run the wrong outfit, you were freezing, church was cold, whatever. And then the resolution at the end is maybe seeing your friend's face when they saw you that you were there, and that made it all worthwhile. That's an example. Okay, you're going to write these down. So I'd like you to write about a time where you had to be brave. Okay, so I'm going to suggest pause the video and think about a time when you had to be brave. It could be anything such as you had to get rid of a spider because the person that you live with doesn't like them. Or it could be something a little bit more personal, a little bit more of a bigger event in your life where you had to be brave. Think about how it started. What was the middle of that story, the drama of it? Perhaps the spider started to get away, or you suddenly felt scared. And the end, did you get the spider out? Did it have to be killed, sucked up in a vacuum cleaner? Whatever. Okay, so pause the video and write about a time that you had to be brave. Brilliant, well done. Thank you so much for writing your stories about bravery. You're going to write another one now. Again, they can just be a couple of lines long, so don't feel like I have to write loads and loads, just as long as you cover the beginning, the middle and the end of the story. write about a time when you had to be in charge. Again, it could be you were called upon to do that in your job or in a volunteering position, or it could be you remember when you were a child and your mum left you in charge of your brothers and sisters or something. Okay, so pause the video, have a go at writing that story. Lovely, fantastic. And the last one we're going to do is you're going to write about a time where you were in the right place at the right time. Again, this could be something really huge in your life, like a job interview or meeting somebody at the right time who showed you maybe a resource that you didn't realise was available to you, perhaps for your mental health. Maybe it was somebody introducing you to Creative Remedies. It could also be something like meeting your best friend. You both happen to be at the same place at the same time, you got chatting. Again, a beginning, a middle and end to the story. It can be 3 sentences, it could be 3 pages, whatever you prefer. So press pause on the video and write about a time you were in the right place at the right time. Excellent. Okay, thank you so much for doing those writing activities. We're going to just pause with the writing for a moment and think about basically in any story you can think of, so a play, a film, a book, a story, not necessarily a book. Most of them you can boil down to 5 classic stories, okay? I'm going to show you what they are. I'm going to give you an example or 2 for each of these. And your task is then going to pause the video and write down a few more examples for each of the type of story. It's going to be clear when I show you them. So, Overcoming the Monster. It's a classic story. Loads and loads of films, plays, books can be described as this. So, as my example, I've got Dracula. Overcoming the Monster. It could be Dracula. You're going to have loads more ideas of films you've seen that can be described as this. So in a moment I'll show you these again and you're going to write down a couple of examples of your own. So Rags to Riches, this is a classic. There's loads of films and plays that cover this story. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. So Annie, the musical, Aladdin and Cinderella. So fairy tales come down to this quite a lot. Dick Whittington, that sort of thing. I'm not going to give you any more ideas, but you're going to write a few down for that. The Search. For an object or a location. Absolutely tons of these, especially in films. My example is Lord of the Rings. It's a classic. Searching for the Ring. And Harry Potter as well, you could probably put down as The Search in various times. Now I know in my group I've got some real Harry Potter super fans, so you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Harry Potter could be described as The Search for a place or a location throughout the trilogy, not the trilogy, the series. Okay, Going on an Adventure. Sounds really broad, and it is, but so many stories, plays, books, films are about people or a person going on an adventure. So my example for this is Alice in Wonderland or The Chronicles of Narnia. Okay, going on an adventure. And the final one, a mean character learns something and changes. So we've got our classic Christmas Carol, Scrooge, which we performed in Creative Remedies a couple of years ago for Christmas. There's loads of these as well. A mean character learns something and changes, usually for the better. Okay, so your job now, I've given you 1 or 2, sometimes 3 examples for each of those. I'm going to hold them up again, just make a note of them, and on your piece of paper, write down, maybe go through films, right? What films are about this? Maybe find at least 1 film. Books, anything you've read, or a story, a classic sort of story, fairy story from when you were young, write that down. and maybe a film, a book and a play. Don't worry about the play if you've not seen loads of plays or you don't know loads of plays. Write a couple of examples next to each. So, where did we start? We started with overcoming, where was that? Overcoming the monster. Okay, so pause the video, try and think of a book, a film and a play that relates to this. Next, rags to riches. Write down a couple of examples of this. The search for an object or a location covers quite a lot of things. Write down a couple of examples for this one. Going on an adventure. And last but not least, a main character learns something and changes. So write down a couple of examples of stories you might have read, books, films or plays that does this. Excellent, fantastic. Okay, now you're going to choose two or three of those 5 stories. So when I say you're going to choose one, you're not going to choose Aladdin, for example. You're going to choose a main character learns something and changes. You're not going to choose A Christmas Carol, you're choosing this structure idea, this story idea. And you're going to write down a beginning, a middle and an end for it. Now if you want to use the examples you've written down, so I might use A Christmas Carol to make it slightly easier for myself. So I might say, okay, so A Christmas Carol, at the start, what happens is we'll have one sentence for the beginning. So we meet Scrooge. He's a mean factory owner who treats his staff really unfairly, perhaps, and hates Christmas. I might add that in. Middle, he is visited by 3 ghosts that show him the past, the present and the future. And he learns about himself, a bit big. And the end, I might say he changes and becomes a lot kinder to people and decides to throw a Christmas party for all of his staff. I might have made some of that, that's not exactly accurate. But if you're using a story like The Christmas Carol, try and fit it around the story, you know. But you don't have to do that. You can make up a brand new one, okay? So you could say, right, okay, main character learns something and changes. Okay, I'm going to create a main character who's maybe a strict ruler of a land who doesn't let anybody sing because he doesn't like the sound of music, not the film. Then in the middle he meets somebody who teaches him how to sing and he actually really enjoys it. In the end he decides to let the kingdom sing and play music and he writes his own national anthem. Okay, just made up. So you can use one from a story that you know or you can make up your own story. So pick 2 or 3. So you might say, right, I'm going to do search, I'm going to do going on adventure. Off I go. A beginning, a middle and an end for each of those 2 using one of my examples or a brand new story you just want to make up. So for that I'm going to say you'll need to pause the video, get your head a bit around the exercise. I know it's not straightforward. You're picking 2 or 3 or all if you want of these and write in a beginning line, a middle line and an end line for each one that you want to do. I've got a couple of examples of mine for this. So for example, overcoming the monster. I just gave you an example for that actually, so I won't give you another one. This one's important because this is the one that I'm going to develop. The search for something, a location or a thing. I've said the beginning is postal, so I've decided to make up my own story. Postal workers learn about a unique stamp that will make you a millionaire. The middle is they go in search for it across the UK, but so do a group of elite stamp collectors. And the end is the postal workers find the stamp and decide to have it on display for all to see. Off you go. Excellent, okay, fantastic, well done. So now you should have a couple of beginning, middles and ends ready to develop. So I would say choose one of those. If you want to do something brand new, make a new one up, but choose one that you've got a beginning sentence, a middle sentence, and then sentence for. So you've got an idea what happens. Now you're going to develop that into your pitch, your sales patter. So imagine that you're talking to a board of people who are deciding whether they're going to make your film or play or not. And you want to make sure that they want to make it. So you've got to use quite persuasive language, so really big up your piece. So rather than just going, oh, there's a man who's got a dog and they go on a walk and they find a map and then decide to follow it and find some treasure. Okay, you want to sort of really embellish that and go, an elderly man who thinks his life is almost over, is walking one day with his dog when they stumble across an enchanting map. He decides this could be his last chance for an adventure, so decides to follow the map with his dog, see what he might find. Okay, that's sort of embellishing your language a little bit, making it persuasive so that people go, yeah, I want to see that play, I want to see that film. Okay, so start with that beginning, middle and end sentence, and I would say just to build on that really. You don't need to write the film or the play or the book, you just need to write your sales pitch. So I gave you my example of the postal workers looking for the stamp. I've written that up into a short pitch. So I'm going to give it to you now. Okay. I've added a few things because this is what can happen as well. You might say, oh, okay, I've decided now it is a film. It's an action thriller film, or it's an animation. Or you might say it's a musical on the stage with a cast of 73 and a full piece orchestra. It can be whatever you want it to be. This is the brilliance of this. We can just make up anything we want. So here's my postal workers play. So this large-scale musical adventure sees a group of post office workers going in search of the famous millionaire's stamp. Their journey takes them to the four corners of the UK as they collect missing pieces to the mystery surrounding the stamp's disappearance. Close on their heels is the First Class Gang, a self-named group of elite stamp collectors who want this unique and financially rewarding stamp for their collection. With musical numbers throughout, this show will get you dancing to your post box. Okay, so that was how I've built on my beginning, middle and end, and I've made it a bit flamboyant. I've added some jazz hands, making a bit of a musical, and hopefully someone's going to pick that idea up because I want to make that play now. In fact, creative remedies, let's do it. Okay, so what you've got to do now is write your pitch. Decide whether it's a film, a book, a play, a musical, an opera. It can be whatever you want, and embellish those beginning, middle and end lines from whichever one of these you like the idea of the best. I really would love to hear about these as well, so if you want to comment underneath and tell us what they are, that would be fantastic as well. Okay, I'm going to leave you to do that. Take as long as you need to do that and enjoy it. It's quite a fun task. I really enjoy doing mine. Off you go. Okay, marvellous. Well done, everybody. It's quite a lot packed into this session, so sometimes I do a final task at the end, but I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to say thank you for taking part, and I would say if this activity has brought your attention to something like Mamma Mia, which I just talked about before and now think I would love to watch Mamma Mia, as a treat this week I would say watch a film, read a book, or read a play if you have it, or watch a play online. There's loads of plays online for free to watch at the moment. So watch something, immerse yourself in a book, a film, a play, either reading it or watching it online this week as a treat to reward yourself for that session. Because I think the way for us to get even better at all of these things that we do, creative stuff, is to read and experience things that are already existing and are already brilliant. So reading books, watching films, watching plays, reading plays, all that sort of thing just really helps us to become better creatives. So I would say that's my final thought for this week, is to give yourself a treat and do one of those things if you've got the time. Thanks so much for joining me and have a great week. I'll see you next week. Bye.